Hey y'all, it's your girl Aaron, and I'm uploading another video. I just felt like speaking my mind, ranting a bit, and so yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be sharing my thoughts about Elon Musk and the cybertruck with you today. And going forward in the future, I'm probably going to do more videos where I'm literally just talking out of the top of my head, no scripts, no preparation and no editing. I've done those kinds of videos before, so I'm going to be doing that again for a bit longer. And so what I was thinking of doing is when I move, because I'm going to be moving house in a bit, I'm going to end up having a pretty long commute to work. So I'm going to get a attachment to like stick to my windshield or something that can hold my phone, and then I'll be able to record myself talking while driving. Okay, yeah, I know that's like quite a trope of what a lot of people do, and it's like a thing where it's like, oh, who wants to watch someone talking into a car or whatever. But anyway, um, the point is that I just feel like um, I have things to say, and also a lot of the stuff that I think needs to be said, I don't really see being said by others. I don't really see the conversation taking place. And so I thought that I might as well, I end up ranting on Facebook or Twitter or anyway. And like that's a pretty disposable way to channel my anger, I guess. Then if I can rant on video, then at least maybe somebody will find it interesting. I mean, I might not be as entertaining as Alex Jones, but I do have a lot of rant energy. So yeah. But let's get on to Elon Musk and the Cybertruck. So to begin with, I personally really like the Cybertruck. I actually think it's probably the coolest car in the world. And if they sold them in South Africa, I would try and make a plan to get one. Because like you only have to put down like $100 deposit, and then you get a full refund if you don't end up taking the car. And then you got like 3 years or 2 or 3 years to try and make a plan to be able to afford it. Uh, and then being in South Africa, they don't sell it here, but um, I was really tempted. But anyway, uh, I really like it. I also do like Elon Musk in general. Now, that seems to be a really controversial thing. And so I wanted to unpack a little bit of the thoughts I have around this person. And I guess a good place to start might be to talk about the things that I do like about him. So I think that he's somebody who is not interested in hype without substance. So I think it's cool that yes, sometimes he does get a bit hypey, but it's always about something substantive. It's not like the gimmicks where like AAA games hyping up the annual like clone of their last year's game or whatever, where the hype is the business model. It's like um, no, like the reason why Elon Musk does hype is so that their company doesn't have to spend any money on advertising. So he's basically the being a character performing to get attention. So that's the type of person that he is. Like he's a performer, and he's also an engineer. And people have said that he's bought everything and he never really created anything and all that kind of thing. And to some degree, you may be correct. I haven't looked into it myself, but I'm okay with that being the case. Um, the thing is, that he has understood the technologies that he's worked with enough to be able to improve them. And in every time Tesla in particular works on a technology, they do it in a way that is what would be best. Like, how would this be like the best, most practical functioning thing? It's not about disposability or mass production. And that's why, it took them so long, to, well, apart from it being a really difficult technology to do batteries. But anyway, I don't want to get into the that side of it too much. I want to stick to the person. But and I guess, yeah, I think he has a cool sense of humor, and that, although he also has a problematic humor as well. Um, Now, I don't for a second want you to think that I would say that the things that Tesla's accomplished were just because of Elon Musk, or that he should get the credit for all that. I think at best he's acted as um, a creative vision, not saying that other people in the company didn't also have visions, but I don't approve of hierarchical decision making. So I don't like that that's the way it was happened, but I think it would have been an even better result if it was done democratically and decentralized. So everything like good that Tesla's ever done would have been done better if Elon Musk had done it as a worker co-op instead of a hierarchy and a dictatorship vibe. So like, it's gonna there's I'm just warning you that there's gonna end up being a lot of nuance here. So that's why I started with like what I like about him, so that the haters can get really angry and go away, and then the people who actually are interested will actually be able to stay and absorb the nuance. Um, and so yes, everything that Tesla and all Elon Musk's companies could be doing, or are doing, sorry, or have done, would have been done better as a co-op. I just That's just my opinion of how humans work, and how I think hierarchy is more of a hindrance than a positive thing to things like ingenuity, innovation, etc., efficiency, all that. Like, if you can get a working, um, if your decentralized organization is a working form of decentralized, not just like a everyone do their own thing. If it's still fully like united, like a fluid, not a structure, but not a gas. Uh, but yeah, but that being said, a lot of the decisions that did end up being made were made because Elon Musk personally wanted that to happen, which includes things like um, which includes things like sorry. I'm actually a little bit nervous talking about this because of how much freaking hate I get over this stuff. But anyway, um, so okay, that was it. It's the releasing the patents was the big thing, I think, that almost nobody seems to want to give him credit for, which is pretty huge, in my opinion. And I think that his idea of wanting to go to space and stuff is pretty cool. Like, again, better if done cooperatively. But so that is kind of, as we transition now into addressing the criticisms of Elon Musk. I want to just try and make the distinction of where now a lot of the criticisms of Elon Musk are trying to make him out to be this like really bad person, like he like Hitlerizing him or whatever. Like they are trying to basically make seeing good in him some kind of morally unacceptable thing or whatever. And so that's just not something I can get on board with. And so if that's who you are and you want to criticize me, I'm actually not going to take your opinion seriously because I I don't think that's healthy, basically, to think that way. Um, but what I think is that uh, we need to be able to see the positive and negative in people both. I think it's wrong to obscure both of those. And so while, you know, we are very familiar with people obscuring the negatives stuff, like trying to appear better than they really are, um, it seems like on the reactionary left, it's actually the positives that are trying to be um, sort of treated as unacceptable, and that's not cool because it's like I don't want to start getting into like super political stuff, but I just want to say there's like a strain of political ideology that tends to want to create like almost like civil war-esque hostility between the bourgeoisie and the working class. And I'm just going to put forward that that may have something to do with the people in that ideology believing that the only way to ever get any kind of forward progress when it comes to capitalism requires a violent replacing of the state. Not um, you never like destroy the state and then try and make plan afterwards. That doesn't happen. You get afterwards the thing you've been building before, and and so if you haven't built the the base of like mutual aid and um, uh, like production for use and stuff, if you don't have a socialist freaking hardy does. I do realize that this is very like back and forth rambly, but like this is really difficult for me to even put into words and stuff. Um, and I don't know if I don't know if you saw, but I have mentioned before that loud noises make me unable to think properly. I can't block them out properly. I think it has something to do with being autistic. So, like that hardy dot there, like I literally could not even try and continue my thinking. But now it's gone. Um, I'm trying to remember what I was even talking about. Freaking hate that that happens. Like I really hate hardy dots so much more than mosquitoes. Nothing else is that loud and like intensely. Anyway, um, oh yes, okay. So this trying to create like, so you only get what you build. Yeah, it's coming back to me. Okay, cool. So unless you've built that production for use, mutual aid, like decentralized, stateless, person-to-person, collectivist style, um, libertarian, anarchist vibe economy. And unless that is big enough to carry the weight of everyone's needs or can be quickly scaled up to that level, you literally cannot try to implement it uh, after the fact because people are going to die of hunger and stuff. Like, it's not, no one is going to like go ahead with that idea because the practical limitations are just going to be too immense. And so they without having such a thing, which actually makes a state irrelevant. And so you don't need to go and attack the state. You would just need to liberate resources from it and defend yourself from it if it tried to retaliate. But essentially, you would probably more want to ideologically infiltrate it and get it to realize its redundancy as well as the people's, and try and work with people. And if there is need for violence, it would only be between those who are literally not even willing to consider ever working cooperatively with others. And then that's the types of people we can't really deal with now anyway. Um, so yeah, but so that's why if you haven't made so that's why that doesn't have this Civil War-esque end to it. It has more of a like a Occupy, or like like 95% of the population striking and just being like no. Um, it's not this like yeah, it's not aimed at merely removing those in power and being like we can do it better. So it's making those jobs completely needless, and the people still doing the jobs living in absurdity and not actually like if they're allocating food to education, but all of your education is already happening without the need of money. Um, did I say money or food? But if they've allocated money to education and all of your education is already being handled in mutual aid fashion without the need of money, then what are they going to spend it on? Building schools that will never be filled, like, and it becomes an absurdity, and a joke really, and and it's it's not gonna be this epic a battle. It's gonna be like I don't know. It's not gonna look like a typical revolutionary war or anything. So now, these typical revolutionary wars, like they come faster than such a thing I just described. Like that mutual. They replace this. They take on the state before there's any other like socialist anarchist economy. You're still functioning in capitalism when they're taking on the state without having an alternative built. And as a result, if successful and they do remove the people in power, they are going to be forced to do their job again and hopefully do it better. And in the history of times, I'm not going to suggest it's always ended up in people doing a worse job. Sometimes they have done a better job. That doesn't mean this is the right way to do things. Doesn't mean it's going to get us where we really want to go. Um, so you unless you don't want people to just die, so you have to become the managers of capitalism if you do that. And that's why I don't think it's helpful to create a kind of civil war-esque hostility between the bourgeoisie and the working class, the proletariat, or whatever you want to call it. Um, because um, because ideologically, you're not really potentially as at odds as you think you are. Now, it's capitalism, the existing in the machinery of capitalism is what ends up creating enemies out of each other, because you are playing on the landscape of capitalism and the bourgeoisie have the higher ground, or whatever analogy you want to think of it. But like, it's the design of the map where they always spawn on higher ground, or what have you. But like, that's it's not it's once you go to a different map where you spawned, at the same level, it's you're not going to have antagonism, because well, this is a really bad example, but like what I'm trying to say is that their privilege elevates them. And if they want to stay elevated, they have to make sure to maintain their privilege, which means they aren't going to allow other people to gain those same privileges, and and that would so um so like yeah, so like if we are building this alternative economy, right? So like the people who trying to create hostility, I'm just saying that I think that they will be the ones who end up wanting to or not wanting to, but doing it anyway, be managers of capitalism, and that is the ideology that they are the path they are going down, if they realize it or not. But if you are building this other economy, this socialist, libertarian, decentralized economy that doesn't have markets or money, but is direct response to needs, you are communicating technical details, not prices to each other, etc. And it's good faith acting assumed, not capitalism's bad faith acting assumed. So, because it's within a union of collectivized people who are committed to each other in community and in mutual aid, and ideologically united in cooperation over competition, that you don't need to be suspicious of a request. You can assume that it's being done in good faith, and so you don't need to worry about gatekeeping to try and make sure that it's only, you're not getting taken advantage of, because people aren't going to be taking advantage of you, because they'll all be acting in good faith, and that's why you can offer services for free. And so when you're offering services for free, the other people can make use of those services or products for free, and then they don't need money to buy it, so they don't need money themselves, so they can offer their products and services for free. And so that's the chain reaction of socialism that you get going, that can sustain itself like fusion. Um, Now, capitalism, also has that same virality, where like you need money to buy bread, and so you have to sell your rent, sell your labor, you know, to get money so you can pay that. So you have to obtain money because you need money to get your things, and that's why you can't give away your labor for free, because then you wouldn't have money to get your things. And so the chain reacts people into having money, and that's why it's really difficult to create a socialist economy, because you need to somehow, it's called the means of production in normal political talk, but you need to somehow get access to resources and stuff without it having to have come from the capitalist marketplace or economy or whatever, with money and stuff. But if you have like land, for example, and you can grow all the food you need to live on it, and you can live off the land and stuff like that, then you can be living outside of capitalism. And if you can support somebody else, and only, so maybe you're farming for two people, but you only have one person's labor needed to maintain the farm, then the other person can offer some other service for free, or etc. So there, that is the kind of lifting each other up needed, incubation style, to get socialism, the socialist economy going. But so I went way off Elon Musk for a second, but the reason why I guess I went that deep into it is because that is why I think it's important uh, for us to not create such a hate towards the, in ourselves at least. Don't internalize hate towards billionaires. Hate the position they're in, hate the system they're in, and hate the decisions they're making, and hate that they are making those decisions. But, you can hate them if you want to, but it's counter-revolutionary, because you would be doing exactly the same thing as them. You can't say for sure you wouldn't be doing exactly the same thing as them if you experienced the same experiences as them. You cannot definitively say that you would do differently, because you haven't lived that life. You haven't had the specific access to specific information and missed crucial information as well, you know, and being taught harmful ways of thinking, being taught harmful, and trust me, he's been taught harmful ways of thinking. Okay, I think we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, like, so I don't think it's helpful to hate people whose sin is being a capitalist. Now, let's get on to the criticisms of Elon Musk and talk about the sins of Elon Musk. And so, yes, being a capitalist is inherently uh, unethical, harmful. Um, it's also playing the game that you were born into. Good. Playing it, or getting lucky in it, or at least not failing in it. So people say, well, everything Elon Musk's achieved, it's just, he inherited a bunch of money and then he bought this and that, and then, he didn't do anything himself, whatever. But like, the thing is, no, like, Trump inherited a bunch of money and like went bankrupt 6 times and fails at everything he puts his mind to. Lots of people inherit money and the decisions they make end up in that money getting wasted. Now, should they have had that much money? No. Is having the money and then making the right decisions commendable? No. But it's not, it's not a default. It's not a given. You don't just automatically end up having profitable companies when you've inherited a bunch of money. It's pretty much like a 50% of what you need, basically. But there is another 50%, or however many percent you want to say, even if it's 1% of wisdom or whatever, and 99%, lack in money. But still, the fact that, someone has that 1% wisdom is like, it's almost like if Elon Musk had been inherited a bunch of money and then wasted it all on booze and ended up in like, a minimum wage job or something, that people would be like, man, you're so awesome. But then, the fact that he spent the money on being a capitalist, it's like, man, you're the worst. And the thing is, like, people aren't always aware of the class distinctions. And when I say we mustn't create hostility and animosity between ourselves and the bourgeoisie, I don't mean we shouldn't know the difference. We definitely need to know the difference. We need to be very clear of the class distinction. We just don't need to other and reject the humanity of the other class, even if they're doing it to you. So, yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that would it have been better if Elon Musk had taken his money and started co-ops and funded socialist movements and stuff like that? Yes, of course, that would have been better. And probably every single one of the people watching this thinks to themselves, like, if I had inherited all that money and whatever, I would have been doing it that way. But the thing is, what came along with that money was the freaking problematic parenting and shit that would have led someone to like spend like capitalist parents raise capitalist children as well, and like it's from a very young age, and so it's like if you had inherited the money, you would have inherited the capitalist training as well. And yes, people do go class traitor sometimes, but like, do you think they go class traitor because people were angry at them on Twitter? Like, what? No. They go class traitor because they unlearn the problematic thinking that they had. And the way that you get people to unlearn problematic thinking is constructive criticism, not just, vilifying them, even if they are a villain. If you want to get a villain to stop acting like a villain, you need to get them to stop thinking like a villain. And you don't get them to stop thinking like a villain if you're just pointing out how villainous their thinking is. You've got to teach them how to you've got to teach them how to think differently, but by showing them and by basically also presenting why it's better. Because every person thinks that what they think is the best thing to think. And yes, some people are wrong, but you can't just expect them to take your word that they're wrong. They need to see for themselves why. And if and yeah, let's move on from this. So um, basically, there's the union busting stuff. That yes, he's pretty scummy for that, and that's not cool. And um, but the thing is, again, he's got a myth in his head and a fantasy of how um, he's going to give his workers like higher pay than they would get in other places, or he's going to give them better working conditions than they get in other places, and that would be why they don't need to unionize because they don't need to be fighting for more. And he's wrong, and actually it does reveal that he thinks like a capitalist, and it's problematic. And I would call him out on that all day, and you should. Uh, and the thing is, like, when you call him out, you don't just have to say to him, like, um, you're a union busting piggy, whatever. Like, no, be like, um, he needs to understand why unions are important. He needs to feel the burn, basically. He needs to understand why the wealth inequality disempowers those who are just workers, and that it isn't just a level playing field, but that there is structural power like stuff. Like we all understand why it's kind of sketchy for like uh, someone in a position of authority over someone else, like a boss and one of their workers, for the boss to uh, use that to pressure that person into some kind of like non-work relationship or something. Like we understand why that's wrong because we understand we've been well, the ones who don't understand it maybe weren't ever workers, but a lot of us understand why it's wrong because we've been workers and we know the pressure you feel when someone is holding money over you like that. And maybe that's Elon Musk's problem. Maybe he's never worked for enough bosses to know the pressure money can feel like over you. Um, but the thing is, like, this is why I'm making this video, and maybe my format and my logic isn't all 100% perfected, but it is off script. But the thing is, like, that I'm trying to explain to you why someone like Elon Musk arrives at their position from uh, basically like, like sort of kind of being an okay person, like with a whole lot of shit. But like, who do you know who is perfect? Like, and we hold people to such a high standard when they're rich and famous. Um, but sometimes it goes beyond like, you know, what like sometimes the way we act is we are reacting based on our emotions and not what is actually the best thing to do. So like if someone like Elon Musk says that they are sympathetic to socialism and that they like the sort of government vibe uh, in anarcho-communist book, like you going to then think we should treat this person like you know like they're running a sweatshop or whatever, and it's just not it's not sound. There's no it's out of sync with reality because it's like misunderstanding like what it's like to be on that to be in his shoes even, and like not because we need to feel sorry for him, no, like the opposite. you should not feel sorry for him at all, but because we need to understand how someone like that is connected to us still, and connected by chains of Overton windows of ideologies where he freaking insect flew or on my mouth. But there's like, think of any particular thing. Let's take unions for example. And so you, on the one end, you've got like the gonna kill anyone who even thinks about unionizing vibes, and on the other end, you have like, why doesn't the union run the company vibes? And you'll find the capitalists are closer to the I don't want them to have a union side, but it is a progression of positions from one to the other. Different people might hold different positions, different authors might talk about different positions, and different logic dictates why a certain position might be something someone would choose. And you can move the needle, and you move the needle not necessarily incrementally. It's a combination of incrementalism and tugging someone. So you got to almost show people stuff that is going to cause cognitive dissonance to them, so that the confusion that results communicates to them that they are missing information, and that will then allow them to pay more attention. But when they start paying attention, the they might not, the thing that shocked them or created the dissonance, it might be quite a logical leap to get to it that they might not be able to make straight away, but there might be intermediary steps they could make that can get them there. So people talk about this kind of thing, how like um, people like people like Destiny, I guess, almost act as a conduit between the left and right, where sort of leftists who were kind of right leaning come to him and end up going more to the right, and rightists who come to him but who are more left leaning like end up going more left. But it's because of the people that he's talking to on both sides and stuff, and him sort of trying to be a neutral ground. And so that is a type of intermediary step between different ideologies, and so that can happen in any ideology. And so someone like Elon Musk, if you were able to do this to him, to pull him out of comfort on his thinking, and then have the logical steps for him to get to the correct position, if you could do that for him on all the individual uh, things that make being a capitalist wrong, then I do actually think that he's somebody who would choose to class straighter. That is my personal opinion. And it is absolutely just me, and I can't give you evidence of this. And it is also based on a sort of hunch that he's autistic, and sort of hunch on how autistic brains think, and how optimally like efficiency, elegance, and optimization is more attractive than things like existing privilege. I think to many autistic people that like they would rather live a a more difficult life that was honest than a very luxurious life that was fake. Uh, so I just personally think that he's reachable. And yeah, and so hopefully I've explained to you a bit more about why. But feel free to comment and to give me your opinions and criticisms and stuff, because I can go on more later about addressing specific things people bring up, and my why, because I can't like think of everything, I can't remember everything, I can't put everything into words, but I have a lot more experiences and thoughts regarding Elon Musk and nuances and stuff that I'm not getting to, that I know are there, and will likely have a lot to talk about if you did want to get into that more. And so this longish type video like this is type of example of what to expect, I guess. But maybe when I'm driving, there'll be a bit more interesting background stuff. But I suspect the best way to consume these types of things is through audio only anyway, even though the audio isn't that good. So there's like a whole lot of reasons why you might not like this stuff. But if you do, I'm really glad, because I just feel like this type of stuff needs to be spoken about more. Because I feel like if a lot of people understood, um, this, then we could collectively have a voice that could actually start to radicalize him. And it's not going to happen via vilification, antagonistic type stuff. It's not going to work on him because it is a kind of authoritarian way of engaging. And again, I have this hunch, but anyway, let's just say I have a suspicion that he's somebody who is very much against, um, like, coercion, with some glaring blind spots of how he's doing it himself, of course. But I don't think he likes. I don't think. I don't think he likes people trying to bully him. I think he's mentioned how he was bullied in school and stuff before, and like I think he tried to scrub the internet of those videos because like they're hard to find. But he was crying on camera at one point. So yeah, the thing is like, could that have been an act? Maybe, but like I don't think so. And the thing is like nobody likes being bullied anyway, and it's like if we could collectively start being more strategic and be like, um, call him out, like, why aren't you supporting Bernie Sanders when it's against your company? Like, you might put pressure on him that like by not being in favor of the Green New Deal, he's jeopardizing properties for his companies, and put pressure on him like that, and let's be freaking smart about stuff, like, and let's try stuff. Um, I don't think boycotting Elon Musk's products is going to be useful because I think they are too hotcake type things where if you boycott it, there'll always be someone to take your place type thing. Um, and you're fighting a losing battle because they're making the best cars on earth. But like other things, and he likes being in the public eye. So let's get him on social media. Let's get journos to ask our hard questions, um, and let's try and pull him left. Like, think of people that you used to watch on YouTube or whatever who've come further left. Like, I'm thinking of TYT. There's a couple people on there flirting with libertarian ideas. Anna Kasparian seems to me to have quite a libertarian streak. She's not quite there yet, but um, people are moving left. Like, I think Carl Kernsky's moved left a bit, um, and it happens, and that's what we need to be doing with Elon Musk. Like, get lefties to interview him, like, um, like talk about these types of ideas with him and stuff, and get him thinking about it because he does get hyper focused on ideas. He does have special interest type stuff, and if he starts to perceive the ethics as a technology and how libertarian socialism is the most elegant and beautiful of the ethical technologies, you could get a huge ally. Like like he's gonna be able to create moon and Mars colonies like with his companies. Like we might not like it, but that's what he's gonna be able to do soon. Imagine if those were socialist colonies. And how are people so fine with missing such an opportunity? And it really bugs me because, like, we're talking about like things that could really make a difference, like radicalizing him could change the world. And people are like so interested in freaking spectator sports and yelling at the team they don't like that they aren't going to be acting in a way that can bring about the possibility of that happening. If it happens, they'll act like they're the ones that made it happen. But no, it would have happened despite them, because that isn't how you change people's minds, and it's not how you change his mind. But bullying him will not change his mind. Anyway, um, I'm really interested in finding people who are able to engage in this level of nuance and to actually like let's actually start thinking about stuff on that level and stop just like you know it's like fun to bully maybe, and you feel like it's a safe target when they're a billionaire, but like there's so many billionaires, like pick your freaking target. Like and the cybertruck thing, one more thing, like holy crap, that is a freaking cool car. Okay, and like the people who are like dunking on it and stuff, like sure it's funny, sure the window test failed, like, but like it's such a freaking cool car. And like people want to act like it sucks because they are creating this, they're trying to act like Elon Musk is laughable or pathetic or whatever, and it's like, so they project onto anything he makes won't be cool when it is actually really cool, and I freaking want to drive in one of them on Mars one day or something, like. And like and people and people, a lot of people, like, I'm getting emotional, I'm a sci-fi author, okay, but a lot of people like this futuristic sci-fi stuff is really like something we hold on to, okay, because of limitations and stuff we want in the future. Technologies like will make certain sufferings in our lives go away. And so holding on to futuristic ideas makes those technologies feel closer. And like, if we were able to celebrate progress and not act like it's sports teams, like, you can put money to way better things, but we can chew and walk bubblegum at the same time. We can solve poverty and go to Mars. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. And just because Elon Musk wants to go to Mars doesn't make him a bad person. And he doesn't have the understanding, people like you should fix Earth first, but like he's thinking like, well, an asteroid can take us out anyway, like no matter what we do on Earth. And like, is wanting us to be a multi planetary species such a bad thing? Like when the dinosaurs got wiped out by asteroids, like this isn't something worth hating. It's cool. And like there's people who are struggling who also are going to hold on to these futuristic aspirations. And if we actually were strategic about our engagement with Elon Musk and helped him to radicalize, and then he would actually start helping on Earth, and he would still do that stuff. But like those technologies that he's developing and trying to perfect for a sustainable colony are useful in every single like place on Earth, because like creating food out of air, like this type of technology, and all like solar, like reusable, this stuff can really help people who are poor. So like radicalizing him with those technologies, then helping to be rolled out socially, like it's like, so it's like, anyway, you just need to not be like such freaking grumpy hate mongers. Like just freaking try and have a little like empathy for people, and like try and like think of the good in people and like help them out of the bad, not just hate them because of the bad. And that's the type of thing like we need to do. And that's the type of society, that's how society's going to change. And the grumpy hate mongers are going to be the Alex Joneses of tomorrow because they're going to get stuck in their record and they're going to not want to move on with society as society moves forward and it's going to progress. And we are going to get to socialism, but it's going to take a while. But the path there, a lot of the people who are grumpy hate mongers, the path that we are literally going to be walking down towards socialism, they're going to see it and be like, we're not going towards socialism, or this isn't really helping, or and they're gonna be the freaking um like reactionary, like counter-revolutionary people. You're gonna become Vosh, like whatever. Like, don't freaking be a grumpy, bitter hate monger. Like, enjoy the things that are possible and try and make more stuff possible instead of trying to shut down stuff. Like, try and expand, try and create growth instead of trying to just cause decay on some stuff. Like, there is stuff that needs to decay, but there can be rejuvenation on some stuff too. And I would much rather we rejuvenate his soul than we just bully him until he decays and becomes the monster you all want him to be. If, he got that much hate, then like if he just constantly got hate and 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 hate, he would go Joker. Like, so why do you want to make him into that by acting like he's already that type of person? So, yes, he's rich, and yes, he has every luxury on earth, and he can never want, but he's still a human being, and he is reachable, and there are people who may not be reachable, where you can actually like unload all that anger and hate vibes you have going on. Fine, aim it at Trump. Like, there's still people who are like Trump supporters today. Like, what the heck? You know, like, if you need to spew out anger, like, there's a perfect example of a problem. Freaking kids in cages. Like, how many children has Elon Musk locked in cages? Like, please, people, like, get your priorities straight. Anyway, that's all, and I guess I did end up getting ranty, so mission accomplished. Thank you for watching or listening or whatever, and if anyone made it this far, comment, let's think. Comment like, um, yeah, comment something about Elon Musk's shoes. And let's see if anyone actually made it this far. Okay, bye.